Okay, this is Rushan doing a guide on the hardware hacking community. Little board, how to from SAINTCON of 2019. So with your kit, you get your header, your LED, you have a through-hole resistor, a 75 ohm resistor, a reverse mount LED, a 100 ohm resistor, a 51 ohm resistor, a USB port, and an on-off switch. And we're going to go through and do this in the different stages, just about of how it goes. It goes into 3 major stages of soldering, with the beginner being the resistor and the through hole, with the switch kind of easy to go through. And then the intermediate is the 75 ohm resistor and the reverse mount LED, and the little bit more advanced parts is the USB port, the voltage divider, and then the optional mini badge headers that you can install. We're going to go through this. So I like to start off with the basic resistor on the front, just to get it out of the way. Oh yeah, and it's good to have tweezers and wire cutters as well for this project. I like to use the 6337 lead Kester solder. I like the 245 no clean personally, as it doesn't leave the little yellow marks like the 44 does. Then I have my JBC iron that I've really liked. Finer tip might be will be useful on the USB port side of things, but other than that, I'll be using my bigger soldering iron tip for this project. It's always good to put the soldering iron next to the pad and the part that you want to do, and then apply solder to the joint until it goes up a little bit. Those look pretty good. Looks pretty good in the front. Not quite fully flush. That's good enough. Okay, then we'll move on to the intermediate part here. Which is the 75 ohm resistor. If you have the Los Santos mini badge, this is the same circuit as on the Los Santos. To do the reverse mount of that to show off the little hand. Went through. Resistors aren't directional. I just wanted to get that. I like to put a little bit of solder down, tack it in place. And solder on the other side. brush up the other side. Make sure the joint's nice and shiny. Then on this reverse mount LED, the dimple on the back, if you look at it, goes away, goes on the bigger of the two pads. It goes towards the 2 side of the D2 marker. Okay. These are big pads on it due to heat dissipation. That was recommended by the vendor. So you need a lot of heat to go down to coat the whole pad with some solder. Make sure it's nice and shiny. It looks pretty good. Okay. And then we can come over here and start on the more advanced intermediate part of the through-hole. So that's the same size, like resistor on R2 as on the intermediate one. But it also has a little bit smaller one for the second resistor. And it's a voltage divider to take the 5 volts from the USB to then separate into 3.3 volts and then also keep the 5 volts for the mini badges. Depending on your source, it doesn't always equal 3.3 volts, so it still works great for the LED mini badges, but may have issues with some of the A-tiny based controlled ones. So this resistor should read 101. And this one goes on R2. Remember to periodically tin your tip to keep it in good shape as you work on these projects. Any joints, that should be good. Moving on to R1. Here. These pads are enlarged for hand soldering due to this was a board I made mainly for people to learn to solder on and try new pieces. So it's good to get a little board to practice on. A little too much solder on that one side, but it works. Then the last of the really easy parts is the switch. I always like to put solder on one pad and put the part on solder it on, and then go around the other pads to lock it in place. Sometimes easier said than done. Let's get a nice little coat on each of these. Coat over the part and onto the pad for good connection. Make sure they are shiny. Okay. And for this USB, I like to put all around the ground planes a little bit of solder. I did enlarge them a little bit, and there's a slight overhang for this part to make it easier to get on. But it still can be a challenge to line up appropriately with the pads. I did make them bigger on the backs and elongated the connectors to help solidify. So as you do one side, and then verify that the pins are lined up. They aren't too bad. They're a little crooked. Let's heat it up. Gently try to reposition. This is the hardest part of the soldering process for this board. So slightly take your time. Try not to rush it. Verify that. That looks a lot better. Okay. Then come on the other side. And if you have a lot of heat on the iron, just kind of add some heat and heat up that shell to help push it into place. And then it has a little bit of overhang, or a lot more. So for your USB plug to go in and out, so you have some room to move it back and forth, depending on how much overhang you like. And then I add some more on the edges to fully cement the part onto the board. And if you have a smaller tip iron head tip for your iron, I'd switch to it to do the last pin because it is fairly small. If not, then you can use your big one to go in there. Let's get in there. All you need to do is that first pin on the right, like this. And once that's connected, that is all that's required to get power onto the board. If you want, you can do the other ones for practice. But they are not really required. That's the hardest part of soldering together this board. And now with the connectors, all the connectors at SAINTCON all went down. So as you put this in, make sure it goes down. You should have got some cable, which I don't have with me because I didn't get some, to make your own extension. If not, then you can do your own which way. So I put this one in, and if you're doing that, I'd do your other two little side headers, if you have them. For the mini badges, we'll solder that on, and then we'll end with that middle LED. Always tricky to try to keep everything together. And I go through and tack it, especially the mini badge holders. Just do one side so they stay in place. The main connector, you can fully tack that one into place. And you can verify how straight they are out together. And to do them more, if they aren't flush, just add some heat to your joint, push them in, and set them how you like. Don't do your heat too long or else the pins will move, which would be a bad thing. All you're doing is enough heat to push it in and hold for a sec. And those all look pretty straight and pretty good. And then I'll go through and finish soldering them on. Solder on that one. I like the solder from one side to the other. Either go up and down, or I do the whole top row and then go back and do the whole bottom row. through. We'll keep. I always like to give myself some room. My solder, go through. And just keep going through. And solder it in. Okay, and then come back through for your headers. And solder all of those on for a good connection. It's a little tilted. So if you want to straighten it out before do that. Once they're soldered in, it's a lot harder to adjust them. And the idea is to not keep your iron on for too long, just enough to get it hot, burn your solder, and then remove. Remember to periodically tune your tip, especially when it starts to look like it's getting dark. Sure. Pretty good. Just using the really thin solder like me, it takes a lot. A little bit thicker solder is a little bit nicer for this stuff. All that I have now is the really thin solder. The last thing, we're going to install Excel pretty good. This LED, which if you saw the Family Night project, it goes the same way. You have to trim it right above the parts, and then the flat side goes through into the round hole. If I did it right, it should go right in. Okay. These barely go through. So if I want to flush, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. We got it. Let's flush. Let's finish soldering it on. Might actually be better to do the LED sooner, as those headers are a little bit bigger than what the LEDs are. And then to test it, get your SAINTCON badge. If you don't have the little header, the one that came with your badge should work. Let's verify I did this right. And there you go. It lights up nice. Now if we throw a mini badge in there, it works well. Let's throw in some different ones. Make sure both of them work. And they work nice. And then that's with the switch one way. If you flip the switch, it will go off because it will switch between USB power or badge power. So right now it's badge power, then USB power. So let's turn off the badge. Let's disconnect it. Let me grab a USB power really quick. So this should run off of a micro USB port. And to verify that you soldered on that connector right, it will still light up. And then if you turn off and on, so you can tell not connected to anything but USB, still works. And if you pull out your little mini badges, they're LED based. You notice that they will also just work great off of the USB. And then if you want, there's some pads on the back that have no electrical conductivity to them, so you can make a little mount to mount your stuff and show off your two favorite mini badges and have it powered by your computer or anything else. So that's the how to solder together the hardware hacking community add-on board. Some people call it the Terminator board. It's a nice little project, lots of fun. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, let me know. This is Rushan signing out. Bye.